Hi, I'm Blythe Stevens, MFA, Bliss Catalyzing Dance Educator and Coach, and founder of A Blythe Coach, dance education and coaching to move through life with balance, grace, and power. Today I have a fall, October, Halloween type theme for you in Hansel and Gretel, the children's classic fairy tale. I use this story a lot at this time of year in teaching creative dance and ballet and dance classes for young students as well as all ages. So I thought I'd share with you today how it is that I integrate music and storytelling and emotional awareness and lots of great seasonal themes into our telling of Hansel and Gretel. Like many children the world over, I learned the story of Hansel and Gretel as a child, and I heard the tale and also had the opportunity as a young performing artist to actually perform in the musical as well. My grandparents gave me this version of the tale right when it came out, this beautifully illustrated Brothers Grimm and Lisbeth Zwerger version, which has particularly dark and atmospheric illustrations. And that was actually round about the time, just a little bit before, I played one of my first major roles, Hansel in Hansel and Gretel. That's right, we didn't have all that many young boys in our musical theater program in Kailua Kona, Hawaii at that time. And so um, a couple of the Hansels were girls. I think there was a boy too, and then we also had Gretel roles. At that age, actually, the tone of the voice is not so different. So, yes, I got to play Hansel and Hansel and Gretel in a Mall and the Night Visitors, and quite a diversity of roles as a young musical theater performer, which I did start after ballet training, and then as I got more serious about dancing, I didn't get to continue that until my senior year at NCSA when I got to also perform in an opera, this time The Merry Widow. Being aware of the story and also getting to perform has informed my teaching of the story now that I am an educator myself. And I also have been informed by the work of Betty Rowen and her book, Dance and Grow. She actually suggests a few scenes that are particularly fruitful to work with for creative dance with young students. And then I actually have a couple more that I usually integrate when I teach the story as well. So I'll tell you about them in a minute. But first, a quote Betty Rowen. This is all performed to selections from Humperdinck's famous opera. Quote, Step 1. Children take partners, becoming Hansel or Gretel. All of them pantomime making brooms, but tiring of work, they stop to play and dance. Side note, this is a common theme in stories, such as with Cinderella, which I also just taught, and I have another video about this too. This working very hard and then taking a moment to stop and dance or dream or imagine a different life or a better life or how we would like for things to be. So they stop to play and dance. Brother, come and dance with me. Both my hands I offer thee. Right foot first, left foot then, round about and back again. Action should follow words of the song, turning us in a circle on the last line. Step 2. Children are taken to the woods where they become lost. Movement improvisation is done to feelings of being lost in the woods and eventually becoming tired and lying down to sleep. Music for When at Night I Go to Sleep. 14 angels watched will keep. Two are on my right hand, two are on my left hand, etc. Can be used. Step 3. Children awaken and see the candy house. They approach it cautiously. Step 4. All the children may then move like witches coming out of the candy house, enticing Hansel and Gretel in. Here's where my witch hat will come into play, and witchy type of movements, riding on brooms perhaps. I like to use personally some contemporary music that has a witchy sound to it, but we also could use the music from the opera. Rowen continues, this story is particularly appropriate for developing awareness of mood and quality of movement. It includes happy play, feelings of being lost, surprise, excitement, fear, all of which can be expressed in movement. So I'd like to share with you a little piece of each of those musical selections for your reference, and I'll also have linked in the blog version or show notes of this podcast and video a playlist with all the tracks that I'll be sharing here. I like to use the overture as to the opera as part of my introduction to the story. If we maybe have a little prologue while we're sweeping as Hansel and Gretel, or telling some of the backstory just in text, or reading aloud about how the family does not have enough to eat and how they're trying to figure out how to solve this problem. And so there's some really nice introduction, and it has some of the themes that will be coming through again. So this is that one, At Night I Go to Sleep melody. So you could also play this overture at that point in the storytelling. And then there are quite a lot of versions of the Brother Come and Dance With Me song. And I actually found an MP3 that's available for free online as well. If you're interested in that, I'll try to link that if it's still available. And this version says that you can replace the line brother with children to make it more inclusive. You could, of course, say sister, or you could say a student or a child's name as well to be more specific. And they say this little song and dance can help children learn coordination and how to distinguish left from right, which are also great skills to be picking up early in our dance training. And there are multiple verses that we could potentially use that have right foot, left foot, that have tap, 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 that have clap, 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 that have nick, 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 or nod, 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 click, click, click. We could do snap, snap, snap. So there's also some body parts awareness that could be fun to integrate there. And swirling around is something that children also love to do. So getting to swing their partner around in a circle or to be circling on their own can be super fun. So here's a couple recorded versions of that song. One is by Classical Child. So it has the orchestral sound as well.
Brother, please come dance with me. Take my hand and then
Very
you'll see.
operatic.
Stepping through, turn around, and there you go.
And then there's more children's
Brother,
song
come
versions.
and dance with me. Oh, my hands like this with me.
Whatever the mood is, if you want to set,
round about and back again. I would dance but don't know how. When to step and when to bow. Show me what I ought to.
I remember that part. I would dance but don't know how. Show me how. Yeah, so Hansel and Gretel actually teach him to dance. Interesting. Then there's so many beautiful versions of When at Night I Go to Sleep. This one is by Mary Van Arsdale. Hopefully I said that right. Some sort of magical. Or as a lullaby version, which is nice. That's another thing that children often like to do, is to pantomime going to sleep and waking. The harp is lovely. This is by Little Munchkin Music. So that's a nice scene. And with older students, it can be fun to explore the roles that exist, as far as I know, only in the opera, not in the classic fairy tale or any other telling that I've heard of the angels, but also the Sandman that comes to help Hansel and Gretel sleep, and the Dew Man that comes in the morning when they wake. These are fun potential avenues for improvisation or also choreography and musical appreciation. And here's the music from the opera as well, the Humperdinck opera. There's a dream pantomime to this music. And then, as we said, once they wake, they somehow, the witch's gingerbread or candy house is revealed to them. Maybe a bird flies and lands onto it. Maybe different things happen. And of course, Hansel and Gretel are so hungry, and so they are feasting at first very cautiously, and then just with hunger and or with a ravenous hunger, tearing it apart. And then the witch speaks. In dance, we can have the arrival of the witch again with the classical opera music, or use a more contemporary piece of music for witch type style dancing for Halloween. This track by Craig Wingrove is one I often like to use. It brings out a really witchy movement. These are both from the musical gems 13, the Halloween, I believe it's a Halloween ballet class. And again, this will all be linked to the Spotify list, but this one's called Frappe to Maniacal Witches. Yes, maniacal witch laughter, sharp sounding, hexy, magical. And then, as I mentioned, I like to resolve it with a celebratory scene of some kind that can be using this track from Act 3 of the opera. So the family comes back together, and now they have all of the riches that the witch had, and it's a happy time. Or this piece by Jack Grunsky called You're Never Alone, I really like to use because that's another theme that I think is really important, especially for young children to learn through the telling of this story, although there are some very frightful horror type elements. The children always have each other, and not only that, but the two of them are never alone. There's always a presence of supernatural or natural figures such as the birds, the duck, the angels, the Sandman, the Dewman. They are never completely alone, and they're able to work together and support each other and get out of the trouble that they're in. So this is a lovely one to, when we're dealing with feelings of fear or loneliness, to remember.
Someone cares a lot for you, cares about the things you do. You're never alone. You're never alone.
And it provides a nice, calm resolution to a very exciting tale. So I have learned a lot about different versions of the story also through the opera. Actually, the CD notes from one version of the opera that I had listened to in the past revealed some interesting things. Like I mentioned, the Sandman and the Dewman and the angels. Also, Hansel and Gretel are sent out into the woods to gather strawberries in the opera version because the family is hungry and they gather strawberries and eat them, and night falls and they are lost, rather than in the Grimm's original where the family takes them into the woods and then says, we're going to go cut wood, here, stay by the fire, we'll be back for you, and then simply don't return. So that's another potential scene, is gathering strawberries can be a fun improvisation before the children find that they are lost and that it is dark. So definitely recommend the Humperdinck opera if you're interested in looking at more of the choreographic possibilities and storytelling possibilities of Hansel and Gretel. This version, which is darkly illustrated, is a English translation of the German original by the Brothers Grimm, and it includes Lisbeth Zwerger. My grandparents gave this to me when I was a child, right about or before the time when I was playing Hansel myself. And I really enjoy using a variety of images when I'm teaching this story, especially to young children, because it really provides a lot of creative and imaginative directions to go with the story. This one, like I said, is particularly dark. There's an image of Hansel and Gretel falling asleep in the forest. And then I really enjoy when Hansel and Gretel discover the candy house. There's a great spread of them chowing down on some delicious looking bread and cake house, and then the witch coming around the corner. And also Hansel being in a cage while Gretel is forced to work to help feed him, to try to fatten him up for the witch to eat. And then that exciting moment when Gretel keeps her wits about her, uses all of her bravery and resources to tell the witch that, I don't know how to tell if the oven is hot enough. Can you please show me? At which point the witch says, of course, it's very easy. Look, I can even do it. And then Gretel pushes her in and closes the door behind her. There's a great image for that. And then a joyous reuniting of the family. I found out that that was a very faithful English retelling of the story because I am able now to read the original German. And I love this fairy tale book for use with children because of its beautiful illustrations as well. And it helps me learn my German and teach the kids in German. And it has a beautiful dark illustration as well of Hansel and Gretel going in the forest in the dark. And there's a bird. And then also discovering that beautifully delicious looking gingerbread and candy house. And in the German, that classic question that the witch has for the children as she appears, and their answer is Knisper, knisper, Knäuschen, wer knispert an meinem Häuschen? Says the witch who's crunching on my house. And the children answer, der Wind, das himmlische Wind. Kids love repeating these. So the English is nibble, nibble, munch, munch. Who is gnawing on my house? And the children answer, the wind, the heavenly wind. But we know the witch is not convinced. And she manages to lure them into the house because she has so many delicious treats and they're oh so very hungry. Speaking of imagery in the teaching of Hansel and Gretel, it's nice to include, I think, some sort of memento of the time and the telling of the story to help children retell the tale when they're at home and to remember the experience of dancing the story. And so I like to give them a coloring sheet as well, or for us to draw scenes from the story, either at the end of our class or to take home with them. And this is a free coloring sheet that I found online that has a really beautifully detailed The Witch's House, Hansel and Gretel, and some little scenes as well from the story. I'm considering calling this Gretel and Hansel because alphabetically that's how it works. Why should Hansel come first? And in my opinion, Gretel is the true hero of this tale. She is the one who has the courage and foresight to trick the witch into the oven. She seems to go along with the plan and gets the witch's trust and then is able to push the witch in and save herself, Hansel, and potentially many other children in some retellings of the story from the witch's spell or from being eaten. So this is really nice for my young students to see some strong young girl role models as well as boys and any gender. Thanks for joining me to talk about how I like to teach Hansel and Gretel in creative dance classes. I hope you enjoyed hearing some more of the music and learning about some of the different versions of the story that exist and some of the themes that are really fun to pull out at this time of year to celebrate the season and also to teach skills our dancers, students, and potentially our own children that we know in our lives. Happy Halloween. And for lots more resources, come visit me at ablythecoach.com. That's ABLYTHECOACH.com.